everyone. Welcome back to another year of our first Finance Committee of 2025, and this is February 11th, 2025. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, we'll start with Committee Member Santa Maria, and welcome to the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Here.
Mayor Rouse.
Here.
Chair Friedman.
Here. All right, we are all present, and may I have general public comments for items not on today's agenda but under the purview of the Finance Committee? Is there any members online?
Chair Friedman, no hands are raised.
Okay, I will close general public comment and move on to our item for today. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Parento.
Good morning, or nearly afternoon, Mayor Rouse, Committee Member Santa Maria, and Chair Friedman. My name is Alelia Parento. I'm the Sustainability and Resilience Director for the city, and I'm here today to talk about Santa Barbara Clean Energy electrical rates. So Santa Barbara Clean Energy is the city's community choice aggregation or community choice energy program. We've been in existence since 2021, and today we're talking about specific rates that we charge our customers. So as a recap for all of you at this point, the SBCE rate setting policy is designed to meet the program's revenue requirement. That revenue requirement includes mostly power procurement, that's the bulk of the revenue requirement, some administrative costs, customer programs, which is how we reinvest in the community, and climate actions supporting the city's adopted climate action plan. SBCE rates are set by formula, and what this means is that we have two products, our Green Start product and our 100% green product. The Green Start product is set at parity to Southern California Edison's base rate. So the default rate SCE charges its customers. Green Start is exactly the same across all customer classes, so your bill would be exactly the same. For a 100% green product, which is completely carbon-free and is our default product for our program, we charge SCE's base rate plus 1.6 cents per kilowatt hour for that greener energy. So a few things have happened recently that bring me here today. One is that Southern California Edison has implemented 2 rate reductions. This is the first time in the program's existence since 2021 that Edison has done a rate reduction. And so this is sort of a new territory for us. The reason a rate reduction or rate increase has any impact on SBCE's program is that we contract out into the future for all of our energy needs. So our costs are fixed. This actually provides us a benefit of cost certainty moving into the future. But when something like a rate reduction happens, our revenue can get out of whack with our expenditures. So the 2 rate reductions that are most recently occurred, one was in October of 2024. The 2 of you that were here back in 2024 might remember that I brought under collection from Edison in 2023. This is where Edison looks back 12 months when they do their rate setting, and they see that they did not collect enough from their ratepayers to cover their revenue requirement, and they increase rates to recoup those losses. That happened in 2023. It hiked prices quite substantially for 12 months. And now, 12 months later, they're coming back and saying, oops, we over-collected. So now they're decreasing rates to return those costs to their customers. These under-collections and over-collections last 12 months. So they have 12 months to return or recoup costs. Additionally, in January 2025, so this just happened, they said they further reduced their generation rates, which is what we compared to, just based on their contracting. This is primarily due to the fact that they have so much migration away from their program in generation, so many customers leaving for community choice aggregation programs that they have an excess of contracts for power, and they can drop their costs because they can sell off that power. So the results of this is a $14 million deficit for the SBCE program if we maintain our current rate setting formula. This is, we do have sufficient reserves to cover this deficit in FY26, but it would essentially wipe out the program's reserve amount, and we would not be able to continue to withstand shortfalls should these prices continue into the future. Before we looked at simply raising rates, we actually looked at any pencil sharpening we could do in the program, and we came up with these different levers we could pull, and I want to go through each one. One is replacing renewable procurements with carbon-free procurements, so like hydroelectric. Your council has a 100% renewable goal by 2030, and we're still in line to achieve that, but we have a little bit of wiggle room in the meantime to play with. So because we only do bundled or bucket one renewable purchases, those are quite a bit more expensive than carbon-free purchases like hydroelectric. So if we meet our renewable requirement by the state, but supplement the rest of it with carbon-free, we can save $2 million in our pro forma. Additionally, if we accept an allocation of nuclear power from PG&E and SCE, and I'm going to explain this more because it's not actual nuclear power that we're purchasing, we would save $1.15 million. I have another slide going more detail on this, so I'm going to put a pin in it for just now. Additionally, we have open positions in resource adequacy. Resource adequacy, as a reminder, is a capacity procurement, so it's not actually electrons. It's the ability to turn on power at the drop of a dime. The state requires every load-serving entity to procure a certain amount of resource adequacy by month. We currently have open positions in September 2025 and September 2026, by far the most expensive months, which is why we're still open there. And we could, instead of procuring those resource adequacy allotments, we could take the state penalty. Why this is even a consideration for us is that we have been trading resource adequacy power in September for over $100 a kilowatt month. The penalty is $8. So our ratepayers would save by just taking the penalty and not procuring. The consequence to that penalty is that we can't expand for 1 year. SBC has no intention of expanding, so it doesn't really affect our program. Additionally, we looked at our operational and program costs, and through delaying some program launches, particularly in the multifamily EV incentive sector, and pushing out some positions we've requested through the budget process until the financial picture changes, we could save $1.3 million in our operational budget. So combined, these things result in a $5 million reduction in costs. Quickly, because I know there's a scary word in this title, what are nuclear allocations? So these are allocations. This is a little bit complex. I'm going to try and simplify it as much as I can, but please do ask questions at the end. So the SCE nuclear allocation is related to legacy contracts that Edison entered into prior to SBCE launch. And when SBCE launched, or any CCA launches, we are required to pay what's called a departing load charge, or this PCIA, a purchase cost indifference adjustment, keeping Edison whole for these legacy contracts that they have on our customers' behalf. The CPUC ruled that since we are paying to keep them whole, we should get the carbon-free benefit related to those power procurements. So that's what that carbon-free or nuclear allocation is from Edison. It's just saying we get to pay for that carbon-free, or we get to benefit from it. The PG&E allocation, since we are not served by PG&E at all in this territory, is related to the extension of the Diablo Canyon power plant. When the governor ruled that the Diablo Canyon power plant would actually stay online for an additional 10 years, he socialized the cost of operating the plant across all ratepayers in California. So you pay a charge on your bill related to Diablo Canyon. Therefore, the CPUC ruled that our ratepayers should get that attribute. So previously, we have never taken this allocation, mostly for reputational risk, right? We didn't want to show nuclear on our power content label. We didn't want to advance nuclear contracts, and there was zero value to these allocations in the past. However, market forces have changed, and carbon-free power, as more CCAs and other states require carbon-free purchases, has put market pressure on those values, and it's now worth over $1 million. So we are already paying for these attributes, and if we don't take the allocation, we have to go out and procure the carbon-free power elsewhere, so we would pay again. So because of the significant increase in value and the financial picture we're seeing, we are recommending we take the allocation this year and potentially moving forward. Really, really important to emphasize is this nuclear energy is being put on the grid regardless of whether we take the allocation or not. That's not actually at play here. And we are not extending the life of Diablo Canyon by taking the allocation. It's already a done deal. So essentially, this is an accounting exercise. In the past, as I mentioned, it was sort of a reputational consideration, and I think we need to rethink that position. Okay, so that being said, we evaluated a number of scenarios. The top one here is maintaining our rate policy with no cuts that I mentioned. That percentage column just shows the percentage over Edison's base rate for each of our products. As you can see, Green Start maintains a 0% premium across all categories. And then it's the 100% green that fluctuates throughout each scenario. So in this status quo, we see a $14 million deficit projected in FY26, and if all things stay equal, which we don't expect them to, an $11.5 million deficit in FY27. We looked at what would it take to have zero deficit with just a rate increase, and that was 6.5 cents premium. We did not think that was palatable, so we moved on from that scenario. And we looked at the maintaining rate policy with the cuts, but we're still seeing a $9 million deficit and potentially a $6 million deficit the following year. So then we started playing, and what we decided was probably the most palatable and gives us the most flexibility moving forward is maintaining current generation rates. So not following Edison's most recent rate reduction, but just keeping our generation rates static, which is up to a 3.6 cent premium, and a 10% increase over Edison's base rate for the 100% carbon-free product. This gets us to a much more palatable $3 million deficit projected in FY26 and $500,000 in FY27. And I want to emphasize two things. Maintaining current generation rates so bills are not increasing with this change, and that it's up to 3.6 cents. So this would give the city administrator the ability to reduce the premium as soon as the pro forma changes, and that would be our goal. This is a visual representation of where our rates have been since we launched. The blue line is the 100% green. You can see it sort of maintains this premium amount over time. The gray line represents Edison's rates, but also Green Start's rates as they are at parity. And what we're suggesting today is we reduced in October relating to our policy that we don't take the January reduction. So we just have a flat line on our generation rates moving forward until things change. So to bring it all together, the proposed changes are taking that $14 million deficit, reducing it to $9 million through cost reduction strategies, maintaining current generation rates by authorizing a premium up to 3.6 cents, and then using what we call our rate stability funds, also known as reserves, of $3 million to balance the budget. This picture shows the reserve forecast in the sort of status quo versus proposed scenario. The yellow line is our reserve target. It does go down in FY27 because we do expect expenditures to come down a little bit, which should be good for this whole conversation. But as you can see, if it's status quo, we deplete our reserves pretty much in FY26 and go negative in FY27, which we're trying to avoid. The green line shows our proposal, which keeps our reserve target right in line. So we did sanity check this premium across other CCAs in the territory to make sure we weren't way out of line with the suggestion. And we were really pleasantly surprised to see that we were falling right in the middle. The 1.5% premium by Orange County Power Authority, they're a brand new CCA, and I do not anticipate this rate premium to be maintained. And then the other end of the spectrum is Lancaster Energy at 47% higher for their green product. But I was heartened to see that our immediate neighbors, Clean Power Alliance and Central Coast Community Energy, are right on either side of us at 7 and 12%. So we seem to be in good company. So next steps, we do plan on coming to council on February 25th. And really importantly, we plan on keeping a close eye on that October rate change as the overcollection falls off. we anticipate that will give us more headroom, and we will be able to reduce the premium, which we do intend on doing if at all possible. The other thing that we plan on doing so that we don't have these rate shocks related to Edison's sort of sometimes capricious rate changes is we'll begin exploring decoupling from Edison. Quite a few CCAs have started doing that, where they just fully base their rates on cost of service, and I think that that would better represent our community. And with that, our recommendation is that you forward our proposal to council for adoption.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'll open it up to questions from my colleagues. No questions? Questions? Member Rouse?
Thank you. Ms. Parento, a couple of quick questions. Well, the last thing first, you mentioned decoupling from Edison. So the relationship with Edison, as I understood it, was always they were a delivery company and we could source a portfolio. So when you say decoupling, does that mean we take over all for infrastructure responsibility as well?
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. Through the chair, no, I mean decoupling from the rates.
Okay.
So currently we have the rate formula.
All right,
Yeah.
very good. And then my next question was, and going back to my understanding as we first jumped into this whole thing about rate stability funds, and, you put them in the same category as reserves, which is heartening, but I always thought that the reserve policy was about doing programmatic things down the road, or is that a separate fund, or do you break those out for, because, rate smoothing and stability obviously is a very attractive thing as well. So can you walk me through that a little bit?
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. So we do budget program funds through the operations budget, so not in reserves.
Not in reserves.
Through the budgeting process, we allocate a certain amount to programs, and we are recommending that we reduce those a little bit to help mitigate this rate increase, rate premium adjustment, and would want to revisit that, as that was a council priority when we launched this, was to have significant reinvestment into the community. So we're not proposing to eliminate programs. We would keep the ones that we have currently launched, but we are proposing to slow down the ones we have not launched.
But we could, if so chosen by council or whatever, we could actually shift that as well if we needed to further stabilize rates or do something along those lines.
Correct, Mayor Rouse. There's approximately $600,000 that is currently
Okay, I thought it was
being
a
programmed.
bigger number. And then when you said on the cost reduction levers, renewable procurements to carbon-free, i.e. hydro, does that mean just procuring hydro or developing hydro?
Procuring hydro.
Procuring, okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, just a couple questions. If you could pull up slide 6.
Maybe. Oh, nope, I handed that.
So just to be clear, right now we're at the 0.16 for the premium, but we would raise that premium to the 0.3, but it would make the rates the bill would remain the same for the customer.
Correct.
So they're not going to see an increase in their bill.
That is correct, Chair Friedman.
Okay, and that's because Edison's rates have gone down, partly due to an overcollection. And then you mentioned October when they do their next rate setting. So say they raise their rates 10 months from now or 8 months from now. That would raise the green start at that time. And so then we would have the ability, this is why you mentioned up to, at that time, if Edison raises their rates, we could actually keep our rates the same, but decrease that cost.
That's correct, Chair Friedman. We do expect the rates to increase in October because that overcollection will sunset. And so unless something dramatically changes in their contracting, that would come back down and we would revisit it with the city administrator to reduce the premium.
Okay, and so for the bottom line, I just want to be crystal clear, is for those that are on the 100% renewable, or 100%, that their bills would remain the same. They're not getting an increase. It's just.
That is correct, Chair
Okay.
Friedman.
And then because it got brought up with nuclear, and just wanted to clarify, those legacy contracts were contracts that were that we here in Santa Barbara were part of that before we had the CCA, and we were part of those purchases that they made at the time. So we've already paid for those in the past.
Chair Friedman, we are currently paying for those through the PCIA charge. And what's important is those do sunset eventually. They're typically 20-year contracts, so we've got a little time on those still, but they do sunset eventually. And Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
important.
Yeah, clarify, we pay for them because of the past contracts, but we're still
Correct.
obligated, whatever they procure, we still have to pay those, and they're procuring nuclear. And again, if we didn't go forward with that, then we would lose out on those contracts that we are already paying for, and we'd have to make up that difference.
Yes, and we're paying for it either way with the PCIA. We're just not claiming it on our power content label because we cannot resell the PG&E allocation. We actually can resell the Edison allocation and not show that nuclear on our power content label, but PG&E, for some reason that we actually aren't aware of, does not allow that. So it will show up on our power content label.
Okay, but that's again because of the previous contracts. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will now open up to public comment.
I have one more question, Chairman.
One more question.
Yes, please. Thank you. Just on, so I'm not sure about the rates and the authority of the city administrator. So we're written into the SBCE, the administrator has the authority to do that unilaterally as opposed to having to come to council each time for the,
The way that we edited, or that we changed the rate setting policy the last time we changed it, which was through the FY23 budget process, was to give the authority to toggle downward. So council sets a ceiling for the rate premium, but the city administrator can authorize a reduction.
so that doesn't fall in the 218 thing.
This is not subject to Prop 218 because it's a voluntary program.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, public comment. There are no members of the public in chambers, so is there anybody online that wishes to speak to this item?
Chair Friedman, no hands are raised.
All right, I will close public comment and now turn it over to my colleagues for comments and a motion. Who'd like to go first? Member Rouse.
No, I'm heartened to see some of the changes in the work you've done to lay this out, so I am willing to move staff recommendation.
All right, a motion's been made. Is there a second? Any further comments? All right, I will just say, appreciate the strategy in this. I'm supportive of doing this since it's not increasing the actual cost. This time we're maintaining where we were. And then the clarification on the nuclear, so it is out there, but there's reasons behind that that are historic. So I think that we went over that today. So with that, we need a vote and make it all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Abstentions? Passes unanimously. And we will close this item, and we are adjourned.